She was just a janitor until she destroyed the CEO and took back her company. At Greenwood and Associates, the day began with a precise rhythm. The first to arrive were the executives, stepping into the grand lobby with their tailored suits and air of self-importance. They exchanged pleasantries, some laughing over their expensive coffee, others discussing numbers and strategies that would make or break million-dollar deals. Behind them, the managers and mid-level employees hurried in, already looking exhausted from long nights and early mornings. And then there were the janitors, the ones no one ever acknowledged. As the executives strode through the glass doors, a woman in a navy blue janitor's uniform quietly pushed her cleaning cart down the hallway. No one greeted her. No one even noticed her. And that was exactly what she wanted. The woman was Ella Turner, and though no one in this building seemed to realize it, she owned Greenwood and Associates. She had built this company from the ground up, pouring years of her life, energy, and vision into it. She had once walked these halls as the most respected person in the company, not just because of her title, but because people genuinely looked up to her leadership. But now they stepped over her mop, barely giving her a glance. They thought she was just another nameless worker, another piece of the background. But Ella wasn't just cleaning the floors. She was watching, listening, taking notes. And when the time was right, she would destroy the very people who had turned her company into a playground for the corrupt. Years earlier, Greenwood and Associates had been her dream. Ella had started from nothing. No investors, no family wealth, no shortcuts. Just an unstoppable drive and a vision for something different. She had poured every dollar she had into the company, hiring the right people, ensuring that Greenwood became known for fairness, transparency, and innovation. And it worked. Her company grew rapidly, taking on high-profile clients and becoming a well-respected name in the industry. But even as it expanded, she made sure it never lost its heart. She personally interviewed every senior hire, ensuring that no one, no matter their position, was treated as disposable. Employees loved working at Greenwood because it felt different. It was a company that valued people. Then, the unthinkable happened. Ella fell gravely ill. She had no choice but to step away, handing control over to her trusted cousin Luke Turner while she focused on recovery. For the first few years, everything seemed fine. Until Luke made one fatal mistake. He hired Liam Carter. At first, Liam Carter seemed like the perfect CEO. He had a charismatic presence, a track record of fast success, and a way of speaking that made people believe he could take the company to the next level. And he did. But at a cost no one saw coming. Under Liam, Greenwood and Associates exploded in profitability, but not because of innovation or integrity. He cut employee benefits, slashed salaries, and eliminated anyone he saw as dead weight. The warm, inclusive company culture that Ella had spent years building, in its place was a cutthroat, elitist hierarchy. Executives thrived. Managers became paranoid, constantly afraid of losing their jobs. And the lower-level employees, the receptionists, assistants, and janitors, were treated like ghosts. The worst part? No one even realized how much had changed, until it was too late. Ella knew she couldn't just storm in and take her company back. If she did, she'd be walking into a battlefield without a strategy. So, she did the one thing Liam would never expect. She disguised herself as a janitor. She needed to see the truth with her own eyes. And what she found sickened her. Executives mocked employees in private meetings. Middle managers were so overworked and underpaid that many were on the verge of quitting. The janitorial and administrative staff were treated like furniture, unnoticed, unheard, and undervalued. She listened to private conversations, took notes on every unethical move Liam made, and observed who was loyal and who wasn't. But the worst of it all? Liam wasn't just corrupt, he was cruel. And soon, he would cross a line even though he couldn't come back from. At first, Liam barely acknowledged Ella's existence. Then, his dismissive behavior turned into something far worse. One afternoon, as she was mopping outside his office, Liam stopped beside her and smirked. "You know you don't belong here," he said, his tone filled with amusement. Ella kept her face neutral. "I'm just doing my job." Liam chuckled. "A woman like you? Wasting your potential? That's a shame. But lucky for you, I know how to help people like you rise up." Her stomach twisted, but she said nothing. Then, one night, he took it further. She was finishing up her shift when she noticed him waiting for her in the parking garage. He stepped forward, his confidence oozing arrogance. "I could make things easy for you, Ella," he said smoothly. "Or I could make things very, very difficult." Ella held his gaze, unflinching. And she smiled. "If you keep this up," she said calmly, "you'll regret it." Liam laughed, thinking he had the upper hand. He had no idea his downfall had already begun. The next morning everything was different. Ella walked into Greenwood & Associates not as a janitor, but as the CEO. Dressed in a sharp black suit, she radiated authority as she stepped into the office. When she entered the boardroom, Liam and Monica were mid-discussion, unaware of what was coming. Then she took the head seat at the conference table. The moment Luke Turner spoke, Liam's world shattered. "Everyone, allow me to introduce you to Ella Turner, the founder and majority owner of Greenwood & Associates." Silence. Then pure panic. Liam's once confident demeanor cracked. You're the janitor," he whispered, his face going pale. Ella leaned forward, her eyes cold and sharp. "I was watching," she said, "and what I found was unacceptable." She turned to Liam and Monica. "Effective immediately, you're both fired." Security entered the room. Liam shot out of his chair, his arrogance gone. "You can't do this." Ella smiled. "Oh, I already did." As Liam was dragged out of the building, he finally understood. He had underestimated the wrong woman. Under Ella's leadership, Greenwood & Associates became what it was meant to be. She fired the corrupt, promoted those who truly deserved it, and brought back the values the company was built on. And as she stood in her corner office, overlooking the city skyline, she smiled. Because in the end, karma always comes full circle. And those who underestimate others will always be the first to fall. Liam Carter was dragged out of the building, but the echoes of his reign still lingered throughout Greenwood & Associates. Employees who had witnessed the scene couldn't believe their eyes. Some sighed in relief. Finally, the tyrant was gone. Some whispered in hushed voices, what would happen now? Some looked at Ella in awe and fear. What kind of leader was she going to be? For years, Liam had ruled with intimidation and arrogance. His departure left a void, and in its place, uncertainty grew. But for Ella, there was no room for hesitation. She had spent too long in the shadows, watching her company become something it was never meant to be. Now, it was time to rebuild. And that meant making hard decisions. Firing Liam and Monica was just the first step. Ella had spent weeks gathering evidence, emails, financial reports, HR complaints, and confidential discussions, all proving that the corruption ran far deeper than just two people. There were managers complicit in the toxicity, board members who had turned a blind eye, and executives who had profited from Liam's unethical practices. That morning she called for an emergency meeting. Executives filed in, their expressions a mix of fear and curiosity. Ella stood at the head of the table, her presence commanding the room. "For too long this company has been run by greed and manipulation," she said, her voice steady. "That ends today." Then she slammed a folder onto the table, one filled with evidence of corruption. A stunned silence settled over the room. Some executives swallowed nervously, realizing their names were in those files. Then Ella dropped the bombshell. "Effective immediately, the following individuals are terminated from Greenwood & Associates," she announced, reading off a list of names. Gasps echoed across the boardroom. Those who had thrived under Liam's rule paled in horror, knowing their time was up. Security was already outside, ready to escort them out, just as they had done to so many others before. The company was finally getting a fresh start. While Ella was cleaning house, Liam Carter was plotting his next move. Getting fired wasn't the end of the story for him. It was a personal humiliation. And men like Liam Carter didn't go down without a fight. A week after his firing, a news article surfaced, painting him as the victim. Fired CEO speaks out against unlawful termination. Greenwood and Associates faces leadership turmoil. Disgruntled investors concerned about sudden power shift. Liam had connections, and he was using them. He was spreading lies, claiming that Ella had no right to take back the company. And worse, he was trying to convince Greenwood's biggest investors to pull their funding. Ella expected resistance. But she wasn't afraid. She had worked too hard to let a man like Liam Carter take away what was rightfully hers. So, she fought back, strategically, methodically, and without mercy. Ella knew that to truly take back Greenwood and Associates, she needed to win back trust, not just from her employees, but from the public and investors. She held a press conference, standing before cameras with a calm, powerful presence. "I built Greenwood and Associates from the ground up," she declared, "and I will not allow the actions of a corrupt few to define what this company stands for." Then she revealed everything. The financial misconduct, the HR complaints, the employees who had been mistreated and silenced under Liam's rule. The press ate it up. Headlines shifted overnight. Ella Turner reclaims her legacy, the woman who outsmarted a corrupt CEO. Greenwood and Associates cleans house, new leadership, new era, is a proud part. Investors rally behind Turner. Company stocks surge. Liam had underestimated Ella. He had thought she was weak, that she was just a woman who had gotten lucky. But now the entire world saw the truth. And Liam? He was finished. With Liam's smear campaign backfiring, he disappeared from the public eye. But for Ella, the fight wasn't just about destroying Liam Carter. It was about restoring her company. And that meant making sure the employees who had suffered under his rule were heard, valued, and empowered. She personally met with employees, asking about their experiences, their frustrations, and their ideas for the company's future. For the first time in years, Greenwood and Associates felt like a real company again, one where people mattered. And Ella? She wasn't just rebuilding Greenwood. She was creating something even stronger than before. Months passed. The company flourished under Ella's leadership, returning to the values it was built on. Investors who had once doubted her were now fully on board, seeing the long-term vision she had always believed in. Employees who had once feared for their jobs now walked into work with pride. Greenwood and Associates wasn't just restored, it was stronger than ever. One afternoon, Ella stood in her corner office, looking out at the city skyline. Her assistant knocked on the door. "Miss Turner, there's a man downstairs asking for you." Ella raised an eyebrow. Liam Carter." A slow smile spread across her lips. "Tell him I'm busy." Then she turned back to her work. Because the past no longer mattered. The future was hers to build. And Liam Carter? He was nothing but a footnote in the story of her success. Ella Turner's story isn't just about revenge. It's about justice. It's about never underestimating the people you overlook, because one day they might be the ones who hold all the power. From Howard Schultz, who started as a Starbucks employee before becoming CEO, to Oprah Winfrey, who was told she'd never make it in television, history has proven one thing. The underdogs always rise. And when they do, they don't just take back what was theirs, they build something better. Because in the end, karma always comes full circle.